Hi guys, welcome to the latest episode of Pull the Pin with me, Alan Barratt. I'm co-founder and CEO of Grenade, and today's episode is all about the life athlete. What does that mean here, you ask? Well, let's find out, and today we've got the ultimate life athlete with us, purveyor of the world's finest beard. It's only Sean Conway. Welcome, Sean. How are you?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, very good.
The imaginations run wild.
It's a lovely chat.
I'm not quite sure I've grown up yet, to be honest.
The irony of the whole thing here is that I'm a radio DJ and I have a business degree.
So, like every shop in the local area was trying to sue me for loss of footfall for like 15 grand each.
Yeah. Go bankrupt in style.
It was amazing because it's just so different from anywhere else I'd travelled.
I apologise to the fans. You'd not like to get a sensible answer from either of us. Tell us your name and where you come from. It's like a terrible game show, isn't it, really?
My name is Sean Conway, and I come from... I was born in Zimbabwe to a game ranger dad who used to live in the bush, and we used to basically try
lived in a bush?
in a bush.
Oh, in the bush?
No, just the... No, a bush.
A bush,
yeah.
okay.
So you laugh. Like,
Hackney.
when we grew up, we lived in sort of tarpaulin tents for a bit, and then, it's Africa style, it's ranger style.
Sounds horrific.
It was amazing. So I had a pretty adventurous upbringing, and then went to school, and long story short, I got into photography with the dream of being this like global travel photographer. I remember having pictures of National Geographic all over my bedroom wall, and I just dreamt that by the time I was 30, because that's really old when you're 15, I was going to be in the jungles of Peru, right? Instead, I landed up working in London as a school portrait photographer.
That must have been disappointing.
At the beginning, it was exciting because, you're starting a business and you're earning money. All of a sudden, people are paying you for your being self-employed, and that was all quite exciting. And then the reality set in of photographing 10,000 crying babies every single year. And we were actually based, one of our branches was in Birmingham. So I used to do from London up the M1 to Birmingham 3 times a week to photograph 100
And that does sound horrific. The M1 is the worst motorway in the world. That does sound horrific. And then now you're global adventurer, world record holder, obviously member of Team Grenade, which has got to be I don't want to put words in your mouth, it's obviously the highlight.
Highlights,
So
yes.
If we make a start with the life athlete, as we've said. So for us now at Grenade, we're all about opening up the brand to kind of to everyone. Now, obviously, we do lots of stuff with military and special forces and people that train really hard and Olympic athletes and people like yourself that do ultra running and global adventuring and stuff. But for us, we want to make the brand accessible to all. There are lots of people out there who, they don't have time to go to the gym, but just making an effort, something with training and diet is really important to them. So we came up with this concept of the life athlete now probably about 18 months ago. And it's very much been sort of an internal communication, but now we're starting to really communicate this to the outside world. And, what does the life athlete mean to you? Because for me, I think you're like the epitome of the life athlete. No one kind of grabs life by the balls as much as you do. Can we say that? We can say by the balls. We can say that.
Yeah. Well, for me, I sort of, when I quit the photography game, I just wanted to do something that pushed myself physically and mentally. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to aim for the top. There was no point in just settling for the easy road. And for me, that was just to do super ultra endurance things. And I started off with cycling, got into swimming, then got into running, back into cycling. So I mixed between swimming, cycling, and running. And just my whole existence on this planet is to be the best ultra endurance athlete I can in the world of adventure. So some people call me adventurer, but I think I'm probably more of an endurance athlete type thing.
Okay.
But it's my life. That's what I do, like day in, day out. I live it, I breathe it, whatever. Just every decision I make involves me being the best physical human being I can in order to achieve these stupid, ridiculous goals that I try and set myself.
Okay, wow. I feel really insecure now. I feel because you do all this amazing stuff. So it does get you thinking. And then taking us back then, so when you were growing up in South Africa, in your bush, and what was life like back then? Was there something that you think probably was triggered in you? I mean, you've obviously had a lot of inspiration from where you grew up and your family around you, and I guess in a fairly unconventional set of circumstances. But was all that just inherently in the DNA? Do you think it was your family that started this, or was it where you grew up, or how do you think this got started?
Growing up in Africa, I think definitely had an influence on what I do now. And it probably gave me a little bit of the confidence, when you're running around the bush barefooted and you're falling out trees, as soon as you...
And there's alligators chasing you.
And there's alligators. You laugh. I mean, once we had a hyena in our house and my mum shouted at me for tearing all the cushions off the sofa. So, obviously that influenced what I do now. There was the bit in my 20s where I probably didn't realize how important it was to live a life where you push yourself, where you try things that you don't know whether they're going to work. You need certainty in life. You need to be certain that you can eat. Yep. And a lion's not going to eat you, and you're not going to starve to death.
That's my biggest fear in Stratford-upon-Avon.
Definitely.
Sometimes being attacked by a lion.
But, you also need uncertainty in life. Like, if you're certain about everything, what's the point? I was certain about photographing 10,000 kids a year, and each kid was worth X amount of money to me because parents would buy.
You weren't selling them, were you?
Yeah, we were selling the pictures,
Oh, right, not the children.
Selling the children.
That's frowned upon. That's frowned upon. How times have changed. You're not allowed to sell children anymore. I think it's what you're saying, and I relate to this in the sense that you need the fear, don't you, I think? A lot of people don't like the fear, but actually I think you should embrace the fear. You're probably brilliant by the sound of it, embracing fear. So would you say that you always do what scares you?
Yes. I mean, I don't actively go and look for something that scares me to do it. But if the thing you want to do doesn't have anything in it that is scary, whether it's achievement, physical ability, actual danger, then sometimes you kind of think, well, if I know I can do it, then kind of why do it? I think that fear certainly fuels your fire, and it kind of makes you get up in the morning, makes you like bring on your A game, And
sure,
that bringing on your A game life is so much more rewarding than knowing you can do it,
Yeah, I mean, I completely I relate to that as well. I think when we were sort of starting our business, and Jules and I, we had a separate business actually prior to Grenade, and it all kind of got quite easy, and because it got quite easy, we sort of fell out of love with it. And I think as soon as we started Grenade, again, we're completely out of our comfort zone, and we had to go and relearn everything again. I think it just brings that excitement with it that probably stops life getting dull, because life can be quite dull if you just kind of do the day-to-day stuff. But it can actually be, as difficult, I guess, as we make it. And then, with regard to the life athlete, I think for us, we want to embrace people that just go out and do something that's probably hard for them. And I think, when we first started working a lot, say, with the British military, there were lots of people at the time who were making supplements, for instance, for just professional sports people and rugby players and footballers and stuff. And I started looking at the military as a whole different demographic, because I'd got friends in the military, particularly the special forces at the time, and some of the stuff that they were doing, and they were telling me they were doing, it was like, wow, this is amazing. And these are the things they can't ever, tell people about. I had a friend of mine, like he was thrown out of an aeroplane in 2001. In a country that we won't talk about, to go and fight some people that we won't talk about, but they actually ended up being dropped 52 miles away from where they should have been, and they had to do a double marathon overnight through quite bad terrain, carrying all their stuff, carrying all the gear, get to the end, 24-hour firefight. Thought that's quite hard.
Yeah, wow.
to be honest. So I think we've and that's just their job. So for actually, a lot of these military guys are life athletes. So with actually how we can really expand that out into the wider world. And I think now there are lots and lots of people who are doing stuff that's probably quite hard for them. Obviously, your stuff's quite extreme, probably very extreme. But you've broken world records as well. So tell us about your world records.
Yeah. So from early on, I had this big idea, this big crazy goal of, can I get a world record in the 3 Fs of endurance: a world's first, a world's furthest, and a world's fastest. So the first thing I tried was a round the world cycling world record as a world's fastest. Trained really hard for that, was doing nearly 200 miles a day on the bike, set off from Greenwich, went down to South America, and unfortunately on my American leg, I got run over by a chap on his phone at 5 a.m.
Actually, run over my phone.
Yeah, he was surfing his phone.
It wasn't Dom Jolly, was it?
Exactly.
It was got a giant phone.
No, just the gentleman was speeding, and I suffered whiplash, concussion. I don't actually remember anything.
And you were saying earlier you broke your back.
Yeah, so I fractured compression fracture on T11 in my spine, torn ligaments, and I was a mess. But I don't remember anything. I went to bed the night before and I woke up in hospital the following day. So I'd got up, I'd cycled for a few hours, I'd been run over.
Okay.
So that ended the world record attempt, but I carried on to raise money for charity.
As you do.
Yeah, well, you've got to, you don't get many chances to cycle around the world
No,
twice.
no, of course.
So, I carried on with neck brace and painkillers and that sort of thing.
There were people listening to this, I have to say, that actually really dislike cyclists. and what you're probably saying about cycling around the world annoying motorists.
Yeah.
It's probably we'll get lots of hate mail. So we'll put at the end of the podcast, we'll put where you live.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah, they can abuse you
Australia.
forever.
I live in Australia, everyone.
He lives in a bush in South Africa. It's fine.
So I got back from that, and I then was looking for something else while trying to get employment. I need to put food on my table, and I was living with my mum in Cheltenham in a 1-bedroom flat on the sofa. Then she came up with this idea of swimming the length of Britain. Thinking
She came up with that?
No, yeah.
So she's trying to get rid of you.
Yeah, she was basically. I think she was saying, "You should do this.
Swim Britain. Swim Britain. Be fine. It's fine. What could possibly go
why
wrong?
don't you just walk to Mongolia? It'll only take you 7 years."
Yeah, she's definitely trying to get rid of you.
I don't blame her. Having a 32-year-old son living on your sofa. And I thought it'd been done because bigger swims have been done in history. Yeah. So I went online. I thought, right, okay, fastest person to swim the length of Britain, blah blah blah, does it in 7 days. I'm like, what? It's 900 miles. How can you swim 120 miles a day?
That's like a long way.
That's impossible. And I was like, right. Anyway, I did some more research, and it turns out this chap had put a swimming pool on the back of a van and did lengths as they drove it.
Oh, okay.
Cheating, but
Crafty,
technically he's done it.
crafty.
Yeah. So it became a world's first.
Okay.
Which in 2013, that everyone just thought it was a waste of time. I was getting long emails. People thought I was going to die. It was, and people just sort of send you those messages on 140 characters. But back then it was like long emails.
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
But that was fuel for the fire, and nothing suggested it wasn't possible. So, that was 4.5 months of swimming. Got Land's End John O'Groats, and that was the first of the 3 Fs.
Okay.
So I got that first. Now I wanted to go for a furthest, so I decided to do the world's longest triathlon, which I did in 2016. That was a 4,200-mile triathlon around the coast of Britain as well.
I've been telling people that was 4,200 kilometers. It's actually 4,200 miles.
Yeah.
That's further.
6,000 K. Yeah, 6,000 something K. Because there was a previous record. A woman in Mexico had it, and she had done 5,000 K, I think. And again, that was fully self-supported. So, I'm running with a rucksack, and I'm doing a full-on triathlete changeover in a bike shop because my mum's posted my bike in and, my running kit, and I run in and they posted it back to my mum. It was great. And then the end was a 120-mile swim self-supported, dragging a stupid raft with all my camping kit in it and stuff like that.
And where was that from and to? Where was that last leg?
So from Brighton to Lulworth Cove in Dorset, so all the way along the south coast, which is the busiest shipping lane in the world, which wasn't ideal. But it was great. The military guys, when I went past Portsmouth, they were all coming on deck and saluting. It was amazing. I got so much support, but it was a tough leg. And, a lot of people said, why are you doing that busiest shipping lane in the world? But when the tides change, because you can only swim with the tide, which runs back and forth, I needed an available beach next to me to go to shore. So you swim all day, whereas West Coast is too many cliffs. The East Coast are those big mud flats, which I didn't want to have to trek through because it's, deep mud. So I had to do that section. And it took me 85 days to finish that. And I got my second of the 3 Fs, the world's furthest.
Incredible. And what was the best part of that? And what I'm always interested. So we always hear about the highs, but I want to know about the lows.
It was all pretty low.
Yeah. Be honest, the whole thing was shit.
To be honest, no, it was pretty shit.
Pretty shit.
Okay. The high, genuinely,
is
me sitting here talking to you about it. And they call it Type 2 fun. Type 1 fun is a roller coaster, fun at the time.
Okay.
Pretty forgettable. Type 2 fun is when you hate it at the time. It's the worst thing you've ever done.
Is it like marriage?
But 2 years. No, I've just got married. It's amazing.
He's got to say that.
Both.
Yeah.
No, but Type 2 fun is when you hate it at the time, but 2 years later you look back and go, you know what? That was
amazing. Incredible. Yeah. Retrospectively. Fair enough.
Hindsight fun.
It's nice to reflect on all these things. Probably, afterwards, because at the time,
and the hindsight is wonderful.
It's like building a business in a way. We get asked lots of questions about business and brand, And I think, we're trying to get better. I'm certainly trying to get better at it and enjoying the steps.
Yeah.
Because it's brutally hard work.
Yeah.
And actually, it's like these challenges, you can just kind of get into the grind and then it's all about the next day and the next day and the day after that. And it becomes a bit of a plod. And then after you look back and you think, oh, wow, I've actually achieved something. But I guess it's probably the same with these endurance events. You probably don't really feel like you're achieving much at the time because those steps, one little step out
Each
of,
day.
4,000
I'm
miles.
self-supported most of the time as well, so I'm just trying to find, I've got the 5 pistons of endurance, I call it. Food, water, sleep, muscle management, and motivation.
Yeah.
And I've got to make sure all those pistons are firing. The 6th one is planning, which you usually do beforehand. But on the road, the 5 pistons.
I'm not sure I can let you have the piston analogy now. Rumor has it. I don't want to
ruin my street cred.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin street cred. But rumor has it that you do have an electric vehicle now.
It's technically my wife's, and that's so I can justify having the twisted Defender.
Yeah, fair enough. So one offsets against the other. Okay,
Exactly.
You need like a more of an electric reference than the piston reference. But we'll let that one go for now. But just never darken our doorstep with it again.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So and you've mentioned your wife. So family on travels. So obviously you've got little Wilder. As well.
Yeah.
Your baby. I want to go boy.
Yeah, Wilder, Conway, our little son's 4 months old nearly. And,
and he's going place with you now. So you're going to start.
Well, we've just done our first little mini adventure together. So I decided to run from Conway Castle or Conway Castle in North Wales to Castle Conway in Kerry on the west of Ireland. It was 260 miles. I had about 12 days to do it. I did it in 11 in the end. And the idea was spend the morning doing some adventuring, and then from sort of 11 o'clock to midday, I'd run a marathon in the afternoon. And they came as support crew. It was amazing. Yeah.
And that's the first time, I guess, that your family have been able to come and join you on some of these adventures.
First time,
so how's that different then, doing it on your own and you've only got yourself to think about? Does it change the context where you've got others with you? And clearly your wife's super supportive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And let's face it, Ward hasn't got a clue where he is. He thinks everything's amazing. So how's that different, having someone with you that you're responsible for at the same time?
For me, for this run, it added just that extra element of enjoyment because I could share, because she could see what my job is. And actually the best part was actually I could, she was carrying my water and my food and my recovery and everything with me, which was great. So I didn't have to have a stupid rucksack on with everything in it and my tent and sleeping bag. And she would just find me every few hours and pass me
he's over there somewhere. He's in the woods. He's in the woods doing something.
And bring me my recovery shakes and give me some food. And within nutrition, I think that was one of the important things. So I have within nutrition there's energy, recovery, and health. So I've got to sort of, that's the pie.
Yeah.
And you've got to make sure you cover all of them. And it's quite easy to forget the health one.
Sure.
When you're on these things and then you get
you're
ill.
just putting in fuel, but it's actually
fuel
unhealthy.
And recovery, whereas you actually also need some antioxidants and vitamins and things like that. It was great. I think what I liked about having a support crew is you can also focus much more on your physical ability and how far you can actually push yourself physically. Like my recovery was so much quicker. Honestly, it was probably a third of, I was doing a marathon a day pretty much from day 3, whereas in the past, that's maybe taken me a week to get up to a marathon a day.
Okay.
Or probably even 10 days, really, because also I'm carrying extra weight.
I could put a shameless plug in here for our products, which I'm clearly not going to do because that would be wrong. But that might have something to do with it as well.
With 100%. No, of course. Yeah. No, I mean, it genuinely was, having the right recovery and energy when I needed it is half the battle, A lot of people, they'll go and do a long bike ride or a long run and they'll get home and they go, I'm just not fit enough, I need to train more. But it's purely nutrition.
Yeah.
Purely nutrition. I'm 70 kgs, 68 if I want to get to race weight, and I can really only store 90 minutes of glycogen in my muscles.
Yeah, okay.
Roughly. So I either need stuff in my stomach digesting or I need to eat more regularly, and having that availability and having just the 3 corners of the pie, energy, recovery and health, just made me fly.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, and this is why I got interested in the military, particularly with this, because for decades, our guys just went out and fought on just pie and chips. And that's sort of how they'd always done it. And, you know, we've got guys that specifically work for Grenade, they're ex-military, and how they'll tell you it was just kind of a lot of it was just stodge and just calories.
Yeah.
So, you know, no emphasis on health. And I worked actually fairly hard back in sort of 2010, 2011 with some of the higher echelons of the MOD, just trying to improve, you know, supplementation and nutrition for soldiers, just for this reason, because it is amazing. You know, I've got friends of mine training just for the Royal Marines at the time, and they're just living on Mars bars, just for calories. And like you say, that just puts calories in its fuel. Yeah. But you know, where's the health? Where's the recovery?
You know, there's calories and calories. You know, you can have 800 calories of one thing, which will give you more energy and more recovery, versus 1,200 calories of something rubbish. You know, processed rubbish. So
and your knowledge about nutrition, is this just been trial and error? Over the years,
over the last 10 years, yeah.
Because again, sort of 30 years ago, this just wasn't a thing. I mean probably even now, 10 or 15 years ago, it wasn't a thing.
You know, I've got some Olympian friends who are terrible at nutrition, honestly. But you know,
is that laziness, or is that just lack of knowledge? Because I'd like to think at that level, there's a lot of advice and support out there should you choose to take it. But you think just people just don't? I think
if they competing at a level at which they're happy with, then they don't feel they want to progress, you know, and you know, if they're winning and they're winning. But, you know, this is your body, you know, I think you need to think of long term. Yes, you might be, you know, it'll get you through the next 6 months or the next race or something. But, you know, I still think you should, what you put in your body is going to have an effect on you long term in life, you know, and I think it's important to just get the right stuff and that sort of thing. And,
do you mind me asking, how do you feel about longevity, bearing in mind you put your body through some brutal stuff? Do you worry about the fact that you're going to be 45, 50 or whatever, and you won't be able to keep doing what you're doing? Is that a fear?
No, I mean, people far more intelligent than me have famously said, I'd rather add life to my days than days to my life, you know. So it's I'd rather you know, jam pack it now, and let's say I do get to 50 and my knees go.
I hope you do. First of all, I hope you get to 50, first of all.
But I'd rather go, you know what, jeez, that was good. You know, like I did the Gloucestershire cheese rolling in 2009. So 10 years ago, I dislocated this shoulder chasing some cheese down a hill, and it still hurts now. But you know what, I love it. I wake up and
it's
in
like, the cheese. Did you catch the cheese?
No, you never catch the cheese.
Oh, you never catch it.
Oh, it's gone.
Okay.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Where do they all go? Do they actually end up somewhere random? Is someone going to find them one day?
You actually win the cheese. If you win, I came second. I was gutted. If you get to the bottom first, you win the cheese, which they go and fish out of bush somewhere.
That was the bush where you lived, was it?
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And but you know, now this injury, yes, you know, it's going to hurt me later in life, but it's got a story, and you know, it's given me this one stupid thing of rolling down a hill, just fueled my imagination to go and do something else, and you know, add life to my days. And then I think, you know, having a little sore shoulder now, I'm going to regret this when I'm 60. Going, I should never have done it.
Yeah.
But right now,
I won't be wheeling you around, so that'd be fine.
Youthful energy, I'm going to say it is totally worth it.
Okay. And if you could take anyone on your travels with you, other than Wilder, Shackleton, and Mrs. Conway, who would you take and why?
I think for the sheer crack, a guy called Martin Strel. So he famously swam the Amazon River. Phenomenal, probably one of the craziest open water swimmers ever. Honestly, so they had the support boat, and he had swum on one side of it, and when the piranhas came, they had a bucket of blood, which they'd throw on the other side of the support boat so that the piranhas would go to the blood. And he was drinking like 2 bottles of wine every day, swimming down this river.
So would you take him so that if piranhas came, they could go for him first? Yeah, fair enough.
But he's just this wonderfully crazy Eastern European guy. I think he's from Slovakia. Who I just would love to do something with.
And that sounds like he's someone who's probably really inspired you. Is there anyone else that inspired you to get to where you are today, or again still continues to inspire you to do what you do?
I think anyone who's gone for these big records, you know, like the Mimi Anderson, who's got the length of Britain running record, which is 76 miles a day, and she did it in 12 days. It's the female record. It's amazing. Mark Beaumont, who cycled around the world in 80 days, you know, even though he had a full support crew. Just those physical endeavors are just phenomenal. The late, great Mike Hall, a friend of mine who had the round the world bike record unsupported. You know, any of these people who've just gone off and decided to do the ultra endurance way of life, because it's still not professional. You know, the ultra endurance world, the world that I'm in, is still pretty underground. You know, it's
but
not
why
like.
do you think that is?
I think it's the type of people who want to do it actively don't want it to become mainstream, so they keep it underground. You know, these big races across America. So the Across America self-supported race, the Trans Am, has no real like finish ceremony. It's just a statue, and people come in at 2 a.m. on their own, touch a statue and go, well, I've won. And that's it. And then they go and check into a motel and go to sleep. There's no fanfare. There's no prize money. There's no... Technically, they're actually not races. A lot of these big events technically aren't races because from an insurance point of view, so they consider them a flash mob. So,
Really?
Yeah. So to get around this whole idea that if it's a race, you've got to have insurance and you've got to, in
Fair
America
enough,
especially, they just say, oh, we're doing a flash mob in this square at this time. And if you want to cycle to this point, and we'll see who's the fastest, it becomes an unofficial race, you know?
So, and then what would be next in terms of, you know, you've mentioned some of this other round the world stuff, you know, is there something that you'd like to do that you don't think you'll ever be able to do because it can't be done? Or is there something now that's kind of brewing away that you can tell us about that you think might be one to keep an eye on?
So I'm doing a huge challenge next year. It's under wraps at the moment.
Okay.
It's be the longest thing I've ever done. It'll take me 8 months to complete. So that's my focus at the moment.
On your own or family in tow?
On my own. They'll come and find me, hopefully, throughout the time I'm away. Certainly beginning, middle, and end. But some of the countries are a bit dodgy, so we don't know whether it's safe
I like
enough.
the sound of this.
Yeah, we don't know.
I see what I'm thinking, and I don't know exactly where you're going to be going, but I like the sound of potentially. So if you get your family to drop in and come and visit you for bits, I'm wondering if we can get some of the Team Grenade guys, obviously not me, get some Team Grenade guys to probably come in and sort of insert themselves, no pun intended, insert themselves various points of your route, just so they're really out of their comfort zone.
100%. No, I mean, we're wanting people, if you can, you know, it's pretty remote, the places I'll be, but you know, I'm wanting people to come and join me. So yeah, that's June 20th of June next year is when I depart.
So this comes up on our podcasts, and obviously with Pull the Pin, it's all brand business and banter and a bit of bollocks as well. This probably falls into the bollocks category. But would you rather fight a duck-sized horse or 100... No, that's not right. Would you rather fight, a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
100... Oh, wow.
So basically, a giant duck.
Loads of tiny
horses. Or
horses.
100 tiny horses.
Remember,
you still got to think of an answer to the last question as well.
No, I reckon a giant duck. Yeah.
That's the general consensus that we tend to go with.
I think so.
Yeah. Just 100 tiny horses to scare like little velociraptors.
Yeah, no.
Okay, right. So, and then the previous question?
So, I was saying Shackleton is my buddy. You know, we are training buddies and everything, but
Shackleton, by the way, Sean's dog. If anyone doesn't know, it's
Shackleton's my Lakeland Terrier. He is a terrible travel companion.
He'll be mortified if he hears you say that.
But no, he knows it. Shackleton, you are a terrible travel companion. He is, of all the terriers, the Lakeland Terrier is, I think, I'm almost certain, has the biggest work drive, and they are so easy distracted. Honestly, literally, like we're going for a nice run, and the wind will pick up, and a leaf will blow away somewhere, and that's it, gone after a leaf.
That sounds like me, to be honest. I get very that's when we get nothing done at work.
So my character is a mixture of a terrier and a monkey, and I quite like it because in my head I'm a monkey, and I'm trying this and I'm trying that, and that's horrible, and that works, and this doesn't work, and then once I get something that I want, then I'm a terrier, and then I go for it. So I think that's why I like Shackleton as a pet. But I think I'd have to leave him. Also, he's so prone to injury. He's so hyper.
More than you.
Honestly, so he's 2 years old. He's already on his third joint operation. So
he's not running behind on these challenges. You're not sort of, it's not like, kind of animal abuse. You're actually
cruelty.
making him do stuff as well.
This is just on like our 10-minute walk around the block in the lakes. Honestly, so he dislocated his right leg, his left leg. Now he's on his back hip because he just jumps on rocks and falls over and.
That's probably the right
anyway,
and that's
I'll take my wife.
That's the only one you really could have gone with there. But I like the fact it took you 10 minutes to actually come to that conclusion. So, is there anything that you have learned now with doing all this ultra adventuring, let's call it? Is there anything you've learned now that you wish you'd known previously?
Yeah, what would I have told my 20-year-old self? I wish I hadn't in my 20s wasted it away my physical abilities, because your 20s are such an amazing part of your life, and it's annoying that humans are designed this way, where you in some things you peak in your mid-20s and then you've got another 70
it's all downhill from there, decline. Yeah,
and your mind gets stronger, of course, but it's a weird how your mind keeps going potentially.
Mine never did, to be honest.
And I just wish I'd sort of told myself to make the most of my 20s physically and push myself a little bit more and spend more time outside. And, I think we all spend too much time inside. I think if you're feeling a bit miserable, eat better, get fitter, and spend more time out in natural lighting. If you just do those three things, if you choose a physical goal, you will naturally eat healthier, you'll naturally get fitter, and you will spend more time outside. And I wish I'd done that in my 20s instead of just going out to do something purely for a paycheck. And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned, is just chase the dreams. And they don't all have to be sort of quitting your job and going around the world. You should try and divide your life, and everyone will give me stick for this online because this is impractical, it never works. But you should try and divide your life into 8 hours work, 8 hours sleep, 8 hours play. And that's 24 hours. Yes, of course, you need to brush your teeth and do the cooking and the laundry and all these things, which eat into playtime and travel to work. Commuting's a big one. But, you should try and have that sort of balance. And I think, and have these goals within it, whether it's learning a musical instrument or a physical challenge, whatever's, something that puts you out your comfort zone. I think it should be sort of, instead of sort of having to go to the army, I think you should have to have a physical goal in life, and someone should come around and check, have you signed up for your marathon this year?
and holding yourself accountable for doing things. And we get asked this a lot, actually, and this is probably the most common question we get asked on the show, is people saying, well, I've got this idea and I really want to do something, but I can't decide and the timing's not right. And they start coming up with all these excuses as to why you shouldn't do something. And you can always find excuses not to do something.
And it only gets harder to do it the longer you leave it.
It does. It's like people are just looking for a reason to fail. People are scared of failure. We talk about that a lot. And I think then, rather than just thinking, actually, do you know what? And they think about all the things that might go wrong. And I think if I thought about some of your global travels and all the stuff that could go wrong, I mean, you wouldn't leave your front door, would you? You just wouldn't. You wouldn't do it. So I really admire the brave of actually thinking, do you know what? Just do it, and I'll deal with stuff as it comes in. And I certainly sort of, probably living for the moment, which you're the epitome of definitely, I think, living for the moment. But I think, a lot of what you're saying about this adventuring and travel and making the most of your life, you can really apply, in business, in terms of just, you've really got to, have a plan with what you want to do. It's not going to necessarily work out that way, so you have to improvise and learn as you go. And I'm a huge fan of learning. I didn't learn much at school. I didn't really enjoy it there. I didn't learn the type of things I wanted to learn. But since I actually dropped out of school, I've spent my whole life learning, and it sounds like you have as well. You've learned all this stuff just by meeting these amazing people, going different places, trying different things, exposing yourself to real areas of where there's potential failure. And just, you become a much stronger, better person for it.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I've sort of switched between swimming, cycling and running. And because when I thought I sort of got as much as I wanted to get out of cycling at that time, I thought, well, I'm going to try something else and see how that works. And then I've gone back to cycling, and I've done a bit of swimming. It's the one thing I haven't really sort of gone back to properly.
Is there a reason for that?
I think I'm just looking
Is
for
the beard creating too much drag?
No, yeah, it is actually. But no, the main reason is there's one swim I've been trying to get off the ground for like 3 years, which is to swim the length of the Dead Sea, because I just like the title, Shaun of the Dead Sea.
Oh, very good. I see what you did there.
But
Very
no,
good.
genuinely, I've been speaking to the Jordanian government and the Jordanian tourism board, and they just the top and the bottom bits are politically bit fragile.
And how far is that?
It's not very far. I think it's about 50 miles, but I do it self-supported.
And is it like swimming through treacle?
Yeah.
Is it like, okay.
You've got to cover your face up. You've got to wear a full face mask. And
be amazing for your skin, though.
Yeah, probably.
You would come back 10 years later. Terrible. You come back really dry and wrinkly.
Yeah.
I'm dry and wrinkly anyway, so I definitely can't do it.
So I've got that swim in the back of my head, which I've been trying to get off the ground. So I think that's why I haven't looked at other swims, because I'm so dead set on this swim.
Best and worst place you've been around the world, and why?
Oh, best and worst.
You're not allowed to say Stratford-upon-Avon, by the way.
Yeah. No, I lived in Worcester for ages, so I like the Midlands.
Worcester's pretty bad.
Yeah, I like the Midlands. And Tibet, I felt was amazing, because it's just so different from anywhere else I travelled in Tibet. Most parts of the world, you can get by with hello and, hi and things, whereas in Tibet, they just didn't understand even what hi means. It was great just to be... I was there 15 years ago, and it was just so outside of what I've been used to in my travels up till then, and I really enjoyed it. Worst part, I think that's a difficult one. I think the worst experience I've had in one of my adventures was probably having to cycle on Russian roads. So being in Russia was amazing. The people were so friendly. They were really keen to learn English with someone. But having to cycle on Russian roads was just a whole... And I've cycled across India.
Is the traffic horrific? I've been once to Moscow, and
it's there's just this overall feeling that a cyclist should not be on the road. And if you're on the road, it's
true.
just your risk.
That's the case with any country in the world. That's actually true. Cyclists shouldn't be on the road, but more so potentially Russia, but for danger reasons.
Yeah, and it's just the motorways are small. So you're cycling in the dirt, and I've had bits of tassels off wing mirrors hitting me on the back of the head. When trucks come too close. And
that was deliberate.
Yeah. Well, it probably was. And which is a shame, because when you meet the truck drivers in the service stations, they're so friendly, and they're like, oh, it's just almost like it's
I didn't
two
mean
different
to kill
I
you.
didn't mean
I can't
to
do a Russian
kill you,
accent,
but that's
but
just
I imagine it would go kind of like
kind
that.
of it, so that was 10 days of
I only went to Russia once years ago for about 3 days, and the traffic was that bad I almost had to set off to return back to the airport the minute I landed to get there, pretty much, because it was like it was like a week's worth of traffic, so it would have been quicker to walk. And are you clearly you absolutely you love this? Are you still enjoying it? And now the fact, obviously, you're getting bigger on social media, and social media's huge, and you can't do it without endorsements and sponsorships and kind of taking your audience with you. Does that add an extra dimension of pressure for you? Is that...
No pressure at all. No,
Okay.
Not the social media side. I feel a moral obligation to share my journey on social media.
Okay.
Because had I had Instagram as a teenage photographer, wanting to be this National Geographic photographer, wanting to be this global travel photographer, I probably would have been inspired by by these other photographers that I would have followed, and probably followed in that journey. And it's my biggest regret not falling out of love with photography, because I really loved it. Honestly, I genuinely...
You do some great pictures on your Instagram.
I still love it now, but, loving it and then having to do it for work can be two different things, especially in the creative industry. In the creative industry, that's a big difference, the art versus the commercial, really,
because it has to pay for itself.
Creative,
Do you class what you do as work? Because I certainly don't.
No.
I got that impression.
No, the concept of work, no. But any sports person, I fall into just a sports person. I happen to live in a phenomenal part of the country where just my life is outdoors, and living in the Lake District is phenomenal. So no, of course it's not a job. There's no real aspects of my everyday sort of paying the rent that I consider work, because I actually quite enjoy it. I enjoy going to schools and giving talks. I enjoy going talking to Microsoft and you know, giving people some inspiration. I enjoy writing the books. You know, I love writing my books, and I've written 6 and I've got another 4 which I'm currently writing. You know, this is my monkey side. I'll do a bit of this one and a bit of that one.
But when do you find time to do that? I mean, do you obviously, do you do any of that, or do you, when you're out running and stuff, are you thinking of this stuff all the time?
Yeah.
You're getting back and you're jotting it down, basically.
I have a voice recorder on my phone, so any things I have, I write it down. But you know, you've got, when you training, you know, we don't watch TV at home. So we have the evenings free, really. We get up early because we got a 4-month-old son and the dog needs a walk. So actually, you can fit a lot in your day.
Yeah.
If you choose to do some of that stuff. Like for me, you know, I said 8 hours work, 8 hours sleep, 8 hours play. But for me, the work and the play kind of mingle together quite nicely.
Yeah, sure.
So I can do my writing in the evening instead of watching the telly, or in the morning early, you know, and that sort of thing. And so yeah, it's just great. You know, I keep pinching myself, going, God, when is it going to end? But actually, I've still got probably another 10 years to compete in the level I like to compete in. Certainly in running, cycling, that power meter's going down.
I've learned it's like employing younger people. I'm now would employ people just older than me, because we employ younger people. They've all got lots more energy. It's quite depressing.
But yeah, no, I've got another 10 years, I reckon, and to compete in the stuff I want to do. And then who knows? Find something else.
And would you have any advice for people who not are going to go and give up the job and sort of do what you do, but just, is there any advice you'd give to people other than your 888? If people say wanted to go out and start a business, or are just fed up with what they're doing, or they're just not getting the most out of life. And, you know, with a life athlete, it's all about just getting the most out of life, whatever it may be. Yep. Usually, you know, for us, there's a training and health element to it, whatever the training is. But have you got any advice for people that you just are just not getting the most out of life, you know, and for them to become a life athlete? What would you say? I
think I follow the Hemingway philosophy, where he famously would only write 300 to 500 words a day, and he usually do that in the morning for a few hours, and then the rest of the day he would do other stuff, whatever it was. So you can actually, like in photography, you just start small, you know. You don't, because I think what people a lot of think, and they see people like me go, oh, he just quit his business and went off, and you know, they don't really realize that for 5 years I lived with my mum, and then I lived on a boat on the River Severn for 3 years, and you know, so I did all that sacrifice, but I chipped away at it. You know, you have your goal, you have the vision, and you start small. You don't have to like quit it all, because you may not be able to. You know, you may have a family, as much as, you know, I like to sort of poo-poo the money side of life, and you shouldn't do things for money. We've got to eat. You've got to feed your family. You've got to take that responsibility, which is super important. But I think you can start doing it now, even just on the sideline, you know, whether it's buying the website, or, you know, if you were just penning it down, or, you know, writing, drawing. I've got a big blackboard. I love blackboards at home. I just got all my chalk is everywhere, and, you know, so just start now. I think that would be my biggest thing, because I find the later you leave it, the harder it gets in life.
Yeah, and you've got less chance to recover as well. So taking a risk in your 20s is different than taking 100%. A risk in your 50s. Of course. So no, I completely get that. So right, we're getting a bit tight on time, but I think it's time for the question. So it's not really a very sensible one, again, to be honest. I apologise for this, but so would you rather be fluent in all languages but never be able to travel, or travel anywhere for a year but never be able to learn a single word in a different language? Which is basically me.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Travel. I like pointing at things, and, you know, it gets quite animated. And I've just been to Japan as well, like 2 weeks ago, and it was great, you know, because you don't understand anything.
Because we're British, I think if we just speak slower and louder, everyone understands exactly what we mean, or at least we think they do when we travel anyway.
I know. I always try and say something in another language, even if I'm just sort of, you know, just guessing it, really, because at least they know you're trying. You know, you may say the wrong thing, or you may even say it in a different language by mistake, you know. But yeah, I always try, and then it kind of warms you to them. But no, definitely travel anywhere and not learn it. Although it would be kind of cool. I do speak 3 languages though, but 2 of them are so pointless. I speak Zulu and Afrikaans, which
Yeah, they
pretty,
are.
pretty pointless in the Lake District.
Yeah, it doesn't work in the Lake District at all, does it really? But Sean, you're an absolute inspiration, honestly. So thanks so much for coming and sharing some of the story. It's been phenomenal. All the best for the future with your travels. Hopefully we can be part of it and help you along with the way with Grenade, and we can share it to our audience. And it's been an absolute inspiration. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening, guys. That was Pull the Pin with me, Alan Barratt, and Sean Conway. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button. There's plenty more where that came from. Guaranteed brand, business, banter, maybe a little bit of bollocks thrown in.